She just ate on her way up, but
Do you want to go see a flower? Look at
trying to keep
her.
her
See the
composed.
flower?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm sorry we don't have a microphone today, so I'm going to yell as loud as I can. And if you can't hear me, raise your hand. I will yell a little louder. Maybe. We're so glad that you came out today to celebrate a beautiful person, Judith Chute. And on behalf of her family, we want to thank you for coming. She was a great mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, and friend to so many people. Before we start the program, I'm going to just have the family stand for those of you who may not know who they all are. So we'll start with son, David and Shelley Winter. Here he is. Daughter, Bonnie and Don Malecki. And daughter, Becky and Steve Odegaard. Over there. Son, Lincoln and Amy Chute, they weren't able to be with us today. And son, Aaron Chute, also is not able to be with us today. Sister, Sonia and Gary Steele. And Ivy and John Endress. And Fern and Al Fry. Fern is in the hospital, so she wasn't able to join us today. Grandchildren, I'm going to just name all of you, and please just stand when your name is called. We have Megan and Tyler Krumenauer with baby Krumenauer on the way. And I believe she's holding her sister's little baby, who was just born 2 weeks ago, who is Emily Varpness and Ryan Sapo. And they have daughters, Parker Marie and Millie Jo. John Winter, and you'll be hearing from him in his beautiful music later. Justin Odegaard, and Justin has a daughter, Hadley Jane. I don't believe she's here today, but Justin's right there. Sarah Odegaard, over to that direction. And Dawson and Skylar Chute, also not able to be here today. So this is an informal program, and we have a lot of treats over here, so anytime that you're hungry, just stand up and go get some. That will be great. We have programs up here. If you don't have a program and you need one, we will pass one out because you'll be participating in a song later that's printed in the program. So if you just want to raise your hand now, if you need a program, we'll bring one out to you. There's one back here, I think. Thank you, Sarah. Before we sing the last song of the day, we're going to give an opportunity for anyone to share memories or stories that you might have that you want the group to hear. So be thinking of those. And there's another service today at the Lookout Church at 5 o'clock. The family will need to leave here around 4. So talk after the program, but understand that they'll be leaving to go to that other program. At this time, I'm going to call on Neil Segerstrom, who is a cousin-in-law, for the opening prayer. I'm going to stand by you so he can, this will be recorded. No, it's just recorded.
Oh, for
So just hold me. I'm just going to stand by you, okay?
okay.
You do this.
Let us all bow our heads in a moment of prayer. Almighty and everlasting God, bless this day and be with us all as we celebrate the life and legacy of our mother, our sister, our cousin, and our friend Judith. We pray especially for our children, Bonnie, Becky, David, and their families. Give them the strength and the courage to believe that this isn't the final farewell, but rather the last step before everlasting life, and the promise that someday we will all be together again. Bless the many loving memories, and let them be an inspiration to us all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We're going to open the program today with a creed. And some of you that are here today knew that Judy was very involved in the homemakers group called the Northern Lights. In fact, she actually didn't just belong to that group, she actually started that group. And other members that I've seen today that were also in the homemakers group, we have Barb Barkley in the back, Mary Segerstrom, Son, I was there for a little while, I saw Kim Velchek and Charlene and Nita, and then Sally and Clarice, and they passed away during those years. But those caring women, it was a great group to belong to. They did a lot of service projects for children. They read to children in the Head Start program. They shopped for the Warm the Children program, and they supported students with scholarships to attend college, among a lot of other things. And one of the other things was a lot of talking. That's why I couldn't continue, because it was too late and I had to get up to go to work the next day. So they had a lot of fun. But at this time, daughter Bonnie is going to recite the creed that they recited at the beginning of each homemakers meeting.
Hello, everyone. We, the homemakers of Wisconsin, believe in the sanctity of the home, the cradle of character, blessed by motherly devotion and guarded by fatherly protection. We pledge ourselves to work for the preservation and improvement of home and community life, to strive for healthier minds and bodies and better living, to promote the welfare of our boys and girls, the nation's greatest asset, to be true to God and country, and of lasting service to our homes and communities.
Thank you, Bon. In 2012, Judy was honored as Homemaker Member of the Year for Buffalo County for her outstanding leadership, vision, dedication, citizenship, and service. And then again in 2014, she would receive the Beautiful Spirit Award for Buffalo County. For the first event, several of us went to the Modena Church, I believe it was, and we were able to surprise her because she didn't know she was getting that award. And that was a great day, and a very deserving person. So I'm going to share a story next that Judy wrote, and we're not sure exactly for what reason, but it's a beautiful story, and she signed it as an HCE member of the Northern Lights. So maybe something for the homemakers group, we're not sure. But it's about her home and where her and Phil lived, also known as Appledore Woods, down off Highway 37 and HH. Thank you, Bon, for correcting I had BB in there. And when I first read this story, it's beautiful, and I think I would have liked to have my eyes closed and try to visualize what she saw, because I was doing that. So if you want to do that today, we won't think you're sleeping, go ahead and listen to the sights, the sounds, and the smells in Judy's story. It's called My Favorite Place. It is early morning, and I am enjoying my first cup of coffee on the front porch. There are many wondrous sights and sounds out here this morning. The mock orange is more beautiful than I can remember. 2 large bushes, towering several feet tall, are covered entirely with fragrant white blossoms with subtle yellow centers. Their fragrance fills the yard with a hint of sweet honey. Birds of many colors and sizes are singing their morning song. Wrens, cardinals, blue jays, chickadees, nuthatches, and catbirds, to name a few. My favorite bird is the ruby-throated hummingbird. Typically, I have 10 pair during a summer season. I have placed and tended 3 red feeders on my open porch. Those lovely creatures love to dart in and out, chasing one another at times, and feasting together on the sweet nectar I have made for them. A yellow thunbergia hangs near the hummingbird feeders, trailing from its basket and looking spectacular as the centerpiece of our lovely view from the dining room window. The honeysuckle and lily of the valley have finished their early spring show. The tall and proper Siberian iris are now displaying their deep purple blooms, and the wild columbine have spread their blossoms through the garden of hosta. Pots of impatiens dot the yard, showing colors of red, peach, coral, white, and pink, adding splashes of color throughout the landscape. Coleus, 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 everywhere. That was true. They filled the flower bed at our front door. Then, standing straight and tall behind the coleus is the amaranth. They produce long chenille-like blossoms that protrude out the center of each set of leaves, standing erect as guardians of our front door. A wren just flew by and landed on our sandbox. She is scolding me and warning me to stay clear because her family is living in the birdhouse that is hanging in the maple tree at the center of our yard. It is painted pink and white with trails of ivy, a lovely abode for my wren. Being a tiny bird, she lands on the top of an ostrich fern right outside the porch and then continues on her journey of finding food for the hungry little ones. I am patiently waiting for the tiger swallowtail to appear. The mock orange bushes attract this butterfly, and it seems to be his favorite haunt at this season of the year. Thus far, he is being the elusive character he is known to be. The early morning sun now filters through the trees, producing spots of sunshine on the dew-filled grass. I live in a very sweet place on earth. It is a quiet place that provides solitude, that allows me to feel close to nature. And how fortunate can one be to have lived a life so filled with love and lovely surroundings. I count my blessings today and must remember to focus on life's bountiful blessings given to me. Good job, Judy Chute. So with those pleasant thoughts, sounds, and smells in your mind, I invite you to join John. John's going to come forward, and he is going to sing Hallelujah and play his guitar. So please join in.
Actually, before I get started, I just wanted to say like a little story when I was younger. A while back when I was around 7 years old, and when I found out that my grandpa, her husband, actually passed away, it was a really sad day for me. And I cried for about 2 or 3 hours, and it was like one of the saddest days of my life. But in that living room, as I sat there, crying, my grandma, she came in and she just said one line, and it was something that kept with me. And even to this day, I think about her, and all she said was, he wouldn't want you to be sad this day. He only wants you to be happy. And so, to this day, I don't think of her, and I'm not sad about it. I'm happy about all the times I got to be with her, and I just want to play a little song, and because of all the music she put into my life, and I'm hoping she put a lot of music into your guys' life also. So this is going to be my first time ever playing in front of a large audience, so if you can sing along, that would be awesome. So.
you so much, John. Grandma's smiling.
I got so nervous.
We will now hear from David Winter, Judy's son, as he shares reflections of Judy's life.
Well, you may have heard or read Mom's obituary, and hopefully now I've been able to say that here's the rest of the story, in a way. Just before I start, I wear the shirt on purpose because Mom loved the palm trees in Arizona and the tropical and the whole thing, and she just really embraced it. So it's a celebration of life for her, so that's why I did this. It's a celebration, so I wanted to celebrate Mom. So to celebrate the life of my mother, Judith and Chute, you not only need to know where she came from, you also need to know who she came from. So Laverne Lovely and Marion Winston, they met for a date in front of the Ben Franklin store in Mondovi, Wisconsin. They jumped into the rumble seat of a Model A driven by their friends, and so began their story. While they became close, World War II loomed. They were married, and Laverne was soon on his way with the Army. He had orders to take the troop train to Yuma, Arizona for a temporary station. Young Marion followed along with her husband and found a place to stay for them there. After a time, the troop train took Laverne to San Luis Obispo, California, and Marion made her way there also. She found special accommodations renting there since she was pregnant with you-know-who by that time. And after a time, Laverne was shipped off to the Pacific and to the Philippines, assigned to artillery. Laverne's parents, Albert and Bertha Lovely, knew their son was fighting for America in the Pacific, and so they pulled up stakes from Mondovi and brought their 16-year-old daughter, Evelyn, with them to Portland, Oregon, so they could do their part by building ships to help America win and to help their son come home safe. They always had a picture of one of those ships on the wall of their home once they returned back to Wisconsin. Marion eventually returned home to Wisconsin, and little Judith Ann Lovely was born. She was over 2 years old when Laverne returned from the war and got to meet his first child for the first time. These are just some of the people young Judy came from and who helped mold her into the person she became. She came from a great, close-knit family of Loveleys, Winsons, and extended family members. She took that love, got ahead of myself. Young Judy loved school. She had won the spelling bee at Gelmanton Elementary. She took that love of learning and school to encourage others to pursue education. All education. It was a passion for her, and especially more so for music. She was Mrs. Music Teacher to a great many young learners. She made each one feel special in their musical journey. She played piano for services at Lookout Lutheran Church and also for Central Lutheran Church in Mondovi. She even played piano to accompany her mother singing solos at church. She went on to play for many, many weddings as well. And years later, she would play piano for her own young children to sing at church as well. She auditioned and was chosen to play timpani drums for the state 4-H band at the Wisconsin State Fair. We still have a record of those recorded performances. Judy was homecoming queen of Gelmanton High School. She graduated from Eau Claire Technical Institute with a diploma in secretarial training. She was then hired by the state of Wisconsin at the state tax office. Eventually, she took a position at the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire in the business department at Schofield Hall. She retired from the university, having also worked at physics and astronomy, placement, and international studies. She met and married David Winter, and while living in Eau Claire, had David Laverne, Bonnie Lee, and Becky Lynn, each about 13 months apart. While she worked for the state of Wisconsin, and he worked at Northwest Implement, they also worked the nearby butcher shop and worked their small farm at the old Charlie Hornbeck place. A young family doing everything to make ends meet. Mom would dress us 3 kids in pajamas, and they would take us to the Eau Claire Speedway to watch oval track races. Mom and Dad would park close to the spectator area so we kids could lay down in the back seat and sleep if we were tired. Mom and Dad would also take us to the Stardust Drive-In where we could play on the playset and watch a movie. And it seems like Mom would make plenty of popcorn to bring since she'd mastered the art of movie popcorn on the stove. Plenty of butter. And lots of family drives to enjoy the cool breeze and see the sights. So Dad wanted to take over the family farm, so the family moved to rural Mondovi. There are many memories of Mom having a day with us 3 kids. She'd play LP records of Elvis Presley, Connie Francis, Patsy Cline, to name a few. And we'd make a circle in the living room and start dancing to the music. Just Mom and us kids. And we kids would then be Mom's helpers, making a picnic from the kitchen with sandwiches and all of our favorites. Then Mom would walk us out to the field by the woods and have us help pick out the perfect place for our picnic. Always a kid's version of a special event and an adventure all rolled into one. This was how Mom made life special for us young kids. Here's an example of Mom's resilience and perseverance. Just one example. One hot, muggy summer day, Mom was in the cow yard, trying to get the cows in the barn. And of all the spots for it to happen, she tripped backward over a rock, and she fell into a patch of burning nettles, briars, barbed wire, and a live electric fence. And I saw this happen, but I couldn't get there in time to help her. And she flailed, getting scratched and shocked. It was like slow motion, and she just so slow. She finally managed to free herself from the painful mess, and most other people would have called it a day. Not Mom. As other dairy farmers know, the cows needed to be milked, and the animals needed to get tended to. And before that could happen, and so she persevered, brushed herself off, and went back to work. So, Judy also headed the Sunday school at Thompson Valley Lutheran Church in Mondovi, including summer Bible camp, on top of all the other things. You could find Judy working at the university, working on the farm, taking care of her kids, and keeping her home in fine homemaker style. She always made special events extra special with homemade treats, music playing, and always candles lit. Life moved on, and Judy began a new chapter in her life, marrying Dr. Philip Chute. In this new chapter, as she called them, she started by going by Judith and was working at the university and also working in her garden, growing produce and flowers, as well as tending her orchard. They named their farm Appledore Woods after Philip's ancestral estate. Mom's lifetime love of homemaking led her to start the local Northern Lights chapter of the HCE, otherwise known as the Wisconsin Association of Home and Community Education. There they shared great homemaking ideas and strategies and also worked community service projects. She was honored for her contribution as a leader in the HCE organization. She also worked side by side with Phil at the downtown farmers market, that they had worked to create and manage. They had spent the good part of 15 years to travel and learn from markets throughout the country. They attended countless city council meetings. They helped to raise $100,000 so that the state would also help to create the downtown farmers market pavilion and grounds, and as well the overall Phoenix Park. And she was recognized for this right here on June 19th with a plaque that you can see right over there. Judith felt the same patriotic duty her World War II parents and family did. She did her part by participating in political campaigns and by volunteering as a local poll worker. She was proud to do her part for her community and her country. She and Philip also volunteered at the community table in Eau Claire. They also brought their grandchildren Justin and Sarah there to volunteer and pitch in also. After 26 years of happy marriage, in 2013, Philip sadly passed on. After settling his affairs, Mom worked in the garden and orchard still, but found that it was a bit too much without Phil, so she decided to sell the farm and begin the new chapter. She bought a condo in Mesa, Arizona, where her sister Sonia and brother-in-law Gary own one also. Eventually, she met Brian Robbins there, also a widower, and together there, they had many travel adventures in her red Cadillac. They even vacationed together in Hawaii. That was something that I was very happy about and had hoped for since I was a little kid, when she'd have us kids dancing to Elvis music in the living room, thinking about his song and movie Blue Hawaii. When COVID became what it was, and all of us were adapting, Mom was by herself at her condo in Mesa. So during April, May, and June of 2020, we'd have her come by our home in nearby Santan Valley on the weekends to spend time with us. Shelley and I would get shopping lists for Mom to buy groceries so she wouldn't have to go there. And being careful, we'd sanitize all the store packages and have them ready for her to take home for that week, as well as sanitize the house. And those 3 months were precious to us with the conversations we had, the times we spent poolside, and the movie nights we had watching movies Mom had always wanted to see. She had begun to think that she'd make lots of time to visit family in Wisconsin and friends in Canada, but maybe now would make her one home, her condo in Mesa. Before COVID sent her to the hospital in November, she and Brian had the car half packed to travel to Las Vegas on their way back to Mesa. They had also made plans to make a trip to tour Europe, especially Germany. Mom had so much she still wanted to do. I am just so grateful she had the foresight to do the things and see the places she did. Her motto, if not now, then when, served her well. She had another adage in life: you make your bed, you sleep in it. She believed not of entitlement, but instead of the value of making good choices and earning a better life. Mom had said, I've had a wonderful life during her last days with us in the hospital, still trying to survive COVID. Her sisters and we kids and family spent as much time as we could with her via video feed. Bonnie was fortunate to be able to suit up and be at Mom's side during her time in the hospital, and even Brian was able to make a visit in similar fashion. Although she likely wouldn't mention it personally herself, I've noticed that the people who seem so happy have not had any more good or bad breaks than anyone else. What they did do was make a choice they consciously made daily. Mom inspired others to choose to be happy, much like her mother, Marion Lovely, for her more than anyone else, and inspired her to make this daily choice. And now she rests in peace in a beautiful, beautiful place, surrounded by all those she loves and who loves her dearly. her wonderful life continues. I love you, Mom. And one day, we'll feel your hugs and hear your sweet laughter and singing and music once again. And until that day, we'll have these beautiful memories. Thank you, Mom, for everything. And if you'll indulge me, my mother used to love, I'd write something in her cards, I'd find a quote or something extra. So I'll put it together and I'll say this if you don't mind. There was something that she used to do. She'd be rehearsing for church. She'd be playing music. So I don't know if this will come through, but we'll see how it goes. But you'd hear these sounds on Sunday morning or Saturday evening or getting ready for church. So this is some of the things that we'd hear. There's a hole in my soul where she used to be, a part of my life that's broke from me. She touched so many, she helped them too. Her life taught her what to say and do. If only to have her back, hear her happy voice and her loving laugh, to see her pass the pearly gates, to know she's happy there would bring a smile to my face. Of this I know, when the door knocked, she answered, and doubtless happily followed the Master. A faith seen through the heart shine through. Her soul is freed and among the blue, and mine is relieved to know she is home, surrounded by love's light is shown. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Beautiful, true words. So Judy loved to write. As I read earlier, there's a couple of her writings over here also. So please take copies of those with you when you leave. And Sarah at this time is going to read one of those to us. It's called The Applewoods Berry Farm Downtown Farmers Market.
I had the privilege and honor, I guess I would say more, of being able to work on the berry farm as a kid. I would say I spent 20 years as a worker on the berry farm and coming to the market. So this reading had a lot of meaning for me because I remember a lot of these moments. And for her to have written it means a lot. You can follow along. It's the golden printout. If you don't have it, like she said, you can pick it up afterwards. The story begins in 1987 as Philip and I became husband and wife in August of that year. Gardening was a shared interest as well as a desire to be part of the farmers market. The beauty and bounty of fresh local produce sold to the members of our community seemed to be an idea that was growing in popularity, and we wanted to be a part of that movement. We planted 1,000 strawberry plants in 1988 and thus began the adventure and labor of love. In 1990, we became members of the Eau Claire Farmers Market, located at that time in the Railroad Street parking lot of downtown Eau Claire. We sold strawberries, vegetables, and freshly extracted honey from our apiary. We loved the interactions with customers and the camaraderie of the other farmers. At the annual meeting of our market in 1993, the majority of members voted to move back to London Square Mall parking lot. Phil and I decided that a market in downtown Eau Claire was more desirable. After leaving that market, upon much reflection and planning, we decided to form a new market to be called the Downtown Eau Claire Farmers Market and to be set up at the previous location near the Eau Claire River. After locating other interested farmers, including many families of the Hmong community, we opened the new market in June of 1994 with about 20 members. Phil and I voluntarily managed the market for the next 15 years. Eventually, the membership formed a board of directors, created bylaws, hired a market manager, and became a self-sufficient organization. We had very successful years as the number of farmers increased to more than 35 members, and the number of customers increased tenfold. During this time, we were also planting raspberries and blueberries on our farm, which we decided to name Appledore Woods Berry Farm. The name was chosen from Phil's family tree history, where the first named Philip resided on an estate called Appledore in England. The Eau Claire community then decided a permanent home for the market was in order. The Phoenix Park was being planned, and the market was designed as a part of this project. Phil and I traveled during the months of September and October for 2 years, meeting with market managers of covered markets throughout eastern United States. We visited every market from La Cruz, New Mexico to Halifax, Nova Scotia. We took more than 400 photos, which were given to those responsible for planning and constructing a permanent structure to house the market. Phil and I did fundraise to contribute to the building of this pavilion, which was then further supported by the city of Eau Claire. They raised over $100,000 with meeting with businesses in the area, and just farmers at the market donated their own money to make this place possible. In 1998, Judith retired as an assistant study abroad coordinator from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and Phil retired in 1999 as a professor of physics and astronomy to devote more time to the farm. We opened our berry fields to the community as a pick-your-own operation, and currently over 900 families receive invitations to pick their own berries or to order pre-picked pints for their fresh eating or preserving for the winter. We also continue to sell berries at the downtown farmers market. The berry season runs from June 15th to Labor Day each summer, as we have 12 cultivars of blueberries to extend the season for picking. We continue to plant a diverse number of crops until the present time, including tart pie cherries, black raspberries, red, black, and champagne currants, blackberries, golden Ann raspberries, and autumn Britain fall raspberries. Also, 500 blueberry plants were added in the last 6 years to bring a total of 3.5 acres of high bush and half-high blueberry plants. They are currently all in full production. Our focus has been the production and promotion of quality fruit for our customers and the continual success of our farmers market. The downtown Eau Claire Farmers Market houses 65 producers and welcomes 3,000 to 4,000 customers each weekend, along with being open a total of 3 days per week. It has become a community gathering place for the city of Eau Claire. We are very proud of how important this market has become to our city in its lovely location on the confluence of the Chippewa and Eau Claire rivers.
Thank you, Sarah. So I've been asked, well, who are you? And I really was just going to be incognito today, but I am Judy, Ivy, Sonia, and Fern's double cousin. So that's why someone thought I was Judy for a while. No. And someone thought I was Sonia or Ivy. No. So I'm very blessed to be part of the family. My mom and dad were brother and sister to their mom and dad. So double cousins. All right, at this time, we're going to have anyone that would like to share a story or a memory, raise your hand. And the microphone is so that it gets on the recording. It doesn't help us here, but the recording will include it. So we'll bring the microphone out so that you can share whatever story you'd like to share. And we're going to have Aaron and my husband Danny are going to be microphone toters.
I'd like to just say a few words since Sarah just got done reading about the farmer's market. I was a vendor. And I was also on the board, and it was always a treat to go to their house because Judith would always make the most delicious dessert or lunch. One of her sisters commented how she was always a good hostess, and she was. They meant a lot to all of us. This place is beautiful, thanks to them.
All right, so as part of the family, one thing we didn't mention earlier is Judy was the perfect hostess for our Thanksgivings every year since I can remember. And I don't even know how many years that would be, but it's a long time. Her and Phil and her and Brian invited us to their home here in Eau Claire, maybe to Mondovi, I don't even remember that, and in La Crosse when she moved to La Crosse, and had the most delicious meals. And a lot of fun times was had during all of those holidays. So, love that. And I could go on, but I know you don't want to hear from me because you all have stories to tell about homemakers group meetings. Maybe? Barb? Or Mary? No. Sisters? Anybody? Ivy, want to say anything? Nicole?
I can share something.
David? Oh, yes, we do have one thing David and I agreed on. That was Judy that played the Disney ad
Yeah.
on the phone. She thought we were a little heavy. We need to
Yeah.
lighten it up a little bit.
As a young child, we were growing up across from where the Menards Old Mill Center was on Highway 12, the Charlie Warrenbeck farm. And as a young child, I was about 4. And for a short time there, I thought maybe my mother had superpowers because her young son at 4 years old managed to figure out how to get the child-proof gate undone and in the front fence. And she just happened to step in, and her kids were 4, 3, and 2, more or less. And she walked in to get something. She come out, and the kids were gone, and they were heading out to Highway 12 towards the Old Mill Center. And we thought, well, let's go see what the semi-trucks are doing out on the highway. So I'm walking with the girls out. And so my mother, I could hear, all of a sudden I heard this, "Woo!" I heard this voice. I look back, and my mother leaps across the 4-foot fence, doesn't touch the fence. She just is over the fence. I thought that was only like, superheroes doing the lunge. I ran so fast back, I was so scared, I came running back down the Crust Rock Road and fell on my knee, and I still have a scar to this day on my knee. I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble. Just thought I'd share that my mother had superpowers when I was young.
She always did.
She always did.
Anybody else? Yes, it's on.
My sister and I went down to Nashville, and we were in like a community fair or something, and they were selling an item that was called the invisible dog. And it was a little harness, and it wiggled, of course, because you hung on to it. And we were walking down the midway, and people were looking at us, and we were dying laughing, absolutely dying laughing. And we kept saying, "This is the invisible dog, don't you see it?" And then another time, David, where were you? In Michigan when Judy and I went up. She asked me if I wanted to go up, because what were you getting, David? Your wings or something? Or air show. Anyway, we ended up in Timbuktu, up there. And so we found a place to stay. And so we went in, and so we went upstairs. And I said, "Have you got the key?" She says, "No, have you?" I said, "No, I don't think so." So we went downstairs, and we said, "We need a key for our room." And he said, "It won't matter. The key is the same for all of the doors." And I said, "Let's have another glass of wine." We won't even know. And then we went to David's thing, and it was fabulous. So we've had many, many good times together. The end.
Becky.
And what do I do? Hold it. Okay. I'm Becky Rosenbrook and my husband Tom, and we had the privilege and honor of spending a week in Hawaii which was one of Judy's bucket list in 2019. And anyway, Judy loved every moment, and she savored, and she had so much time just to enjoy, and all I can say is Judy enjoyed life, every minute of it, of every day. And she always had time just to sit, to have a cup of coffee, to have a glass of wine, and was never in a hurry. She was just savoring every moment. And I think that's what I remember and want to live my life, is enjoying and thanking God every day for what he gives us.
Ivy? Sure. You can. Ivy's got too many to talk about, but she'll try.
Yeah, Judy. I was the baby sister. Judy meant so much to me. She was almost like my second mom. But I remember being young and at the time living at Menards. They didn't have a lot of money, but she would always make it special. She was a hostess from the very beginning. So Mom and Dad would take me and my girlfriend Cheryl at Halloween, and we would drive up there, and Judy would have her house, her dining room, all decked out for Halloween. She would dim the lights, she would light the candles, and she would have bobbing for apples. She would make carameled apples. She'd make fudge, caramel corn, popcorn balls. So that was a favorite memory of mine because she was a hostess from the very beginning until the very end. She wanted to dedicate her life to helping others, to making others happy, and that was her life. So she'll be truly missed. Yeah.
And she totally did that.
I knew Judy as a child. My grandmother lived in Bennett Valley, down by Gilmanton, and we all were very, very poor. And my cousins were friends of the Lovelies. And we used to go over there every once in a blue moon, and even without any money or anything, we could hardly wait to get to Marion and Laverne's house, and we could hardly wait to see Sonia and Dorothy and the rest of the girls. And I just had wonderful times. The Scandinavians always have food. If they're Lutherans, you always find food. I knew there would be food here, but that's not why I came. But I thought to myself, these girls are just amazing. And I moved my whole life until I was in high school. I moved every month or two, and every weekend I'd be down in Bennett Valley with my grandma, whom I loved so much. But they were on a farm and they needed help, and they were all very poor, and they had very difficult lives. But I'll tell you, when we got to Laverne and Marion's, we knew there would always be something to eat, and there was so much humor in their home. I had never been in a home like theirs, and I love Sonia. She and Diane and I, my cousins, we were always kind of brats, and Judy and my cousin Dorothy were always the wise ones, and we learned so much from them. And they were always looking out for us and helping us get through life. And when I started working at the university, I could hardly believe that I was around Judy for many years, and I loved everything about her. And I love Phil very much too. He was a department chair. He was a great teacher, and he was someone who was very selfish because, boy, I'll tell you, he wanted Judy with him every minute of the day. It doesn't surprise me, that he retired early. And together they were just a dynamic team. They were a very loving couple. And I was so happy when Sonia talked Judy into coming out to Arizona. And I saw this wonderful life that she found there. And I just always admired her upbeat attitude. It would be hard to be sad if you were around Judy. And that was something that I just treasured. And I got to see her a few times when I retired from the university, but it was never enough. And she was a beautiful person.
I was shaking my head yes at about everything you said there. The food, yes, everything. I didn't do this earlier, but just before we close here, why didn't the relatives stand up? We have a very close family, and Judy was the oldest of our cousins, and Ivy is the youngest, and they were in the same family. But let's just, if you can, cousins, relatives, other relatives, any relatives, just stand so people can see all the relatives that came out to recognize Judy today. Pretty good group. There we go, folks. What a family. What a family. And I would say, and now, and the rest of the friends can stand, but that happened to me once and the whole place stood because you're friends too. So thank you. We're going to just finish with a closing now.
There was some.
Oh, did you have something?
I'll make it really, really quick.
Sure.
You think about this after everything, like, oh, I'll never forgive myself if I don't say this part, is my mother would confide in me about a lot of things when I was growing up young. For some reason, we just had a connection where we talked. And she said that when she was really a young girl, she loved, her name was Judith Ann, but she always loved the name Ann. She always thought maybe she should have had the name Ann, should have been her first name. But she always loved that name. She always thought that she was going to live in town and have 2 kids named Jeff and Elizabeth and just live this nice life in town. And the one thing she was never going to do was marry a farmer. She's like, I'm not doing it. And this is the tale of how life plays into this. And I guess the motto is, you bloom where you're planted. And so she marries my dad, who is a mechanic, and they have this life together. And then he says, I'd like to take over the family farm. I can just see what Mom was thinking. You didn't have to tell me. I'm like, the farm? Oh, yay. Okay, let's take the farm. And so she's working at the university. She's trying to be professional, all this stuff. And she's working on the farm, and we're short-handed because it's just me and the kids were young. So she's all, baling hay, lifting wagons, loads of hay. And pretty soon she's got forearms that would put some guys to shame. So she's like, I wouldn't even arm wrestle her because I was like, no, I'm not even going to chance that. But she was lost with this dilemma. She said, how do I go to the office with these arms? Because they're like, biceps, and she's like, so she's trying to wear long shirts in the summer. Anyway. So then she marries Philip, who is a university professor. So here's the life, and this is how it's going to be. And then Philip says, I'd really like to do farmer's market and an orchard. And so again, Mom goes, yay, So she's out there and she's working. All this. So she's at the university, and then she comes back and works the garden. Then she's making meals, and all this is going off. And I said, Mom, oh my gosh, you're just a whirling dervish. You just nonstop all day long. But the point of it all, she bloomed where she was planted in a way, and she just thrived in it. And she made it her own, as they say. She owned it, and she made. She helped make this happen. So, sometimes you get to decide the life, and sometimes life decides for you. But in the end, it's that positive attitude, and she just embraced it and said, you know what, this is where we're going. So, and she just made a wonderful time of it. So, thank you for listening.
That was great. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming out today and celebrating the beautiful life of Judy, our friend and relative. We're going to sing a closing song. Judy was sunshine, right? We all think she was sunshine. So we thought that You Are My Sunshine would be the perfect song to close this out with today. And John's going to play for us. So Ivy and I are going to hold up signs. The words aren't anywhere, except we're going to hold up the words for you to see. And please join along. And when it's finished, that dedication plaque that David mentioned is right over there on the far post. That was dedicated last week to Judy and Phil for the work they did here. Please join us there. Contest, this side sings louder.
I'm just going to play it twice through the first time, and then we'll all sing the other side.
Okay.
Okay.